Two. A one, two.
right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here tonight. All right. And I'm going to just set up. Just to let everyone know, if you're here on Zoom, if you could just turn off your camera, that would be great. We just want to make sure everyone can see what's going on today. So just 1 second as I make this. I got to just do this for 1 second. Hold on. Abel, if you can unmute yourself.
All
There you go.
right.
There you go.
Thank you so
Go
much.
ahead.
Welcome everyone and thank you so much for joining us. We're very happy that we're about to share some information with you guys, and hopefully this information can be helpful on your journey on creating your own virtual concert. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's right,
Yeah.
virtual concert.
Yeah. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for joining us here today. Sorry, I was fixing some technical things. But again, my name is Peter Lin. This is my partner Abel Morales. We are the founders of Yardbird Entertainment.
Oh
And
yeah.
before we begin today, I just want to make sure we have some ground rules here and people joining us on Zoom. We just ask that you don't turn on your camera because we're just trying to make sure that everyone could see what's going on screen. However, if you are here on Zoom, make sure that you go to the box that's labeled Yardbird Entertainment, which is the one that has like the slideshow looking thing. Go to the top right hand corner, click on the 3 dots, and click on pin this video. And that way it will stay up full screen for you the entire time. That way you don't have to switch between different views. And if you're on your phone, on Zoom with us today, then just swipe until you get to Yardbird Entertainment and you'll see a beginning slideshow with both Abel and I in the shot. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So just give us, if you're in the chat box, we definitely suggest that you talk in there if you're on Zoom. If you're joining us on Facebook and YouTube, thank you so much for joining us today. Definitely feel free to comment there, and we'll do the best to accommodate to all 3 locations at once.
Oh yeah.
So
Multitasking.
yeah, multitasking for sure. So just let us know if you're good to go here in Zoom in the chat box. Just, say good to go.
Yeah.
That way we know that we can move on. All right.
Yeah, send us a text on the chat box. Make sure that everyone that's on Zoom that we're ready to go. You pinned Yardbird Entertainment video, and that way you're gonna get the full experience. That way it's not just a small little box or anything like that. It's the full screen.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Let's go.
All right. Welcome everyone again. My name is Abel Mirales. I'm a saxophonist. I compose. I teach. I'm a jazz educator, a music educator in general. I have a studio of students, and I teach for Jazz House Kids in Montclair, a nonprofit, as well as some other organizations. I also produce music, and I'm also one of the founders of Yardbird Entertainment, and I'm so happy to be here and talk about some of our insight on how we do and put together this kind of virtual concerts.
All right. Thank you, Abel. My name is Peter Lin. I'm the other founder of Yardbird Entertainment. I am a trombone player, as you can see by the trombone over there, mostly playing in New Jersey and New York. Just like probably most everyone else, not so much nowadays, but I was teaching at Jazz House Kids, and through Jazz House Kids, I was working through, teaching some ensembles and teaching in schools. Nowadays, I am doing more content creation and AV live stream productions that we'll be talking about today.
Okay, so Yardbird Entertainment, just a brief background of what we do. So basically, we started this company as a live music booking company, and we were doing very well, and we're still looking forward to do that as well. We were doing that before the pandemic, working with different corporates and providing live entertainment. And we were actually creating some content for some of our artists, like you see in the picture on my bottom left. It's we had a roster of musicians that we were filming some of their videos. You can still go to our YouTube channel and check out some of the stuff that we've done in the past. And so that with the pandemic, all that's is slowed down a lot. And but the whole creation content kind of helped us transition to what we do now, which is audio and video and live stream productions, working with some organizations that Peter's going to tell you a little bit more, but basically helping them create the content during this virtual world that we all live in now, due to COVID-19. So, Peter, tell us, who have we been working with?
Yeah, so as you can see on this slide here, these are just a couple of the organizations and companies that we have had the privilege of providing mostly live music in the past. But more recently, we've been doing the AV live stream productions that Abel was mentioning, more for Jazz House Kids, the National Jazz Museum, and more recently, Midori and Friends. And it's basically a thing where a lot of these businesses and organizations need to move their content online. And we've been helping to assist them on doing that.
Yeah. So what do we do now? As I was briefly telling you, the transition of booking, but then also more like a transition, an expansion of what we do now, which is a lot of audio and video editing. So we put together pre-recorded projects. Maybe in certain situations we've gone on site and recorded with 2 or 3 different cameras, and then record audio as well, and then we edit it. We also do a lot of live stream productions. We do remote productions. We've done several virtual live stream productions remotely for the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. And so also we can provide, and we've been doing a lot of technical assistance to musicians and organizations that are trying to figure out how to transition to this virtual world that we're in.
And don't be afraid to email us at yardbirdentertainment@gmail.com if you're interested in any of those other aspects. All right. So, we're actually going to be talking a lot about the split screen performances today and how to basically put on this virtual concert. But a lot of times we find that there's no better way to learn than to test this stuff yourself. Nothing beats the experience, the trial and error process, and finding more optimal ways to improving the workflow. We look at this the same way similar to how we look at music. A lot of it is trial by fire, right? And this picture in particular is just a picture of my studio. This is where I am right now. This is where I get most of my work done. And I made many horrible videos, but also some okay videos during this pandemic here. So again, always try to just test these things out for yourself, whatever you take away from here today.
Yeah, so one of the main questions, what do you want a split screen performance? That's interesting, right? We've started seeing all this split screen performances or videos online and social media and even in TV, even like some of this the news are having all this split. It's almost like a trend, right? And why is that? A couple of the things that I can mention is the ability to stay connected virtually, right? Like for example, on the picture that you see on the screen, it's a project that we were working with a symphony orchestra, Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra, where they wanted to continue providing that entertainment to their audiences, especially for this particular project was for 4th of July. And so that's when we suggested we started working with them in the project, and we said, hey, maybe a split screen performance would be the way to go, because everybody can record from home. Social distancing obviously is one of the perks of doing this. Is definitely provides safety for band members, and also it opens up possibilities to work with people might be all across the world. I'm working personally in a couple of projects that are coming up where I might be working with people in Europe in Poland and different countries to try to put this. So this whole thing has really opened up a bunch of different possibilities to work with different people.
Right. So we're going to be talking a lot about the technological aspects of how to put these things together. So it might be a little overwhelming in terms of the amount of information or the terminology, and we understand that that can be a struggle. So one of the things that we're going to do is if you actually sign up on our website, you'll be able to get the resources and notes from today's webinar, which will be sent early next week. And for those that are watching on Facebook and YouTube, the link to sign up is on the description. And for people here in Zoom, I had just put it inside of the chat box. So if you sign up there, we'll be able to send you the resources, links, YouTube tutorials, just stuff that we've been collecting over time to help ourselves, but also to help others to be able to put on these virtual concerts themselves. So that subscribe button does not work. Trust me.
The one on the website does.
The one on the website does, yes. All right. So first thing we want to talk about is, before we even start talking about how to edit any of this stuff, we have to make sure that our computer is up to the task, or whatever device that we're using. So the first thing we usually suggest is getting these external hard drives. Now, a hard drive, there's one that comes with your laptop or computer that's built in internally, right, when you bought your computer. And if you haven't noticed by now, if you're sending a lot of audio and video files, those are pretty large in size. So we usually suggest getting an external hard drive for that reason. And there's other reasons as well that we'll be going over. But here I have in front of me, this is an HDD drive, hard disk drive. And these are really good for storing large amounts of information. And these are relatively inexpensive. You could get a 1 terabyte, which is like, 2,000 smaller video files, something like that. Probably less than that. But 1 terabyte between $50 and $100. And these are great, again, for storage, but they're not so good for editing. The ones that are good for editing are these SSD drives, solid state drives. And what these are is they're smaller in the storage size. They're usually more expensive, but you get 2 or 3 times the writing speed that you get from an HDD drive. So if you're doing a lot of heavy lifting, video and audio editing, and you don't want to rely on your computer's internal memory, because it's actually suggested that you keep 15 to 25% of your internal hard disk drive open. If you don't want to rely on that, you can purchase these 2 different kind hard drives in order to improve your workflow. And the other thing that we suggest is getting an audio interface. The audio interface is to the left of me, you see on the slide. Not only does it allow you to have the ability to use a professional microphone, something similar to what I'm using right now, but it also allows options for monitoring sound accurately in high fidelity. It allows you to hear more of the frequency range that exists inside music. And this is great when you're doing a lot of audio editing. You want to make sure that you're getting as accurate as a depiction of the sound as possible. Which brings me to my next point, which is the headphones and the studio monitor. So both Abel and I are using headphones right now. We both have studio monitors. And what this allows us to do is plug it right into the audio interface and be able to hear the quality that we need in order to get an accurate sound as possible. It also allows us to hear the music from all different devices. And it's really important when, for example, most people listen to your content or watch your content on different devices, a phone, earbuds, right? So you want to just have as many different options as possible when you're doing particularly audio editing. And the last thing we usually suggest is getting a second monitor screen. You can actually get a pretty decent HD 1080p monitor for about $100. Someone was asking on Facebook one time, where can I get an expensive monitor? And I found one for $100 that's really great. and work with most laptops as long as you have an HDMI connection off of it. So the reason you want that second monitor screen is because it allows you to have more space to work from, especially when you're doing a lot of video editing. You can actually spread everything apart so that you have more space to work from, and you could think more creatively within an organized space. So those are just a couple of suggestions for video and audio editing equipment. All right, so what are the recommended computer specs? So for those who don't know, like computer specs, basically it's the quality and the speed of which your computer is running. Okay, and so a lot of these terminologies that we're going to be talking about, kind of apply to that aspect. Every video editing program has its different requirements. However, this is the suggested recommended specs that you need for your computer or laptop in order to run these video editing softwares smoothly. If you try to do it on things that are lower in size, you might run into issues with the speed of the program. You're going to run into, it takes me 5 hours to export like one thing, right? So I'll just go over the specs really quick. Your memory or RAM is like your computer brain power bandwidth. 16 gigabytes or more is suggested. Processor speed, multi-core Intel i5, i7, i9 models, preferably 4+ processor cores. And a processor is basically the speed of which the information is being processed. Storage space, how much room do you have to store your files? It's saying that, usually you want 256 gigabytes or more. However, having an external hard drive fixes this issue. Graphics card, which basically processes your video information, should be an AMD NVIDIA card with minimum 2 gigabyte memory. And for the operating system, which is basically like Mac or PC, Windows 7 64 edition or Mac OS X or higher. And again, this might sound like a lot. However, it's really important that you go and figure out what is your current computer specs. The way you can do that is you just go to your system preferences and you click on About. And then what you're going to see is the information that's listed here: your memory, RAM, processor, storage, graphics card, etc. You might need to do some upgrading if you find that the programs are running somewhat slowly. However, again, every program has different requirements. Okay, so just to give an example here. Okay, so what I'm going to start talking about here is the easiest way to do a split screen performance. There's many ways to do a split screen performance, but we're going to work from easiest to hardest, all right? So the first option for the easy split screen performance is this app called Acapella. You can actually download it right now on your mobile phone. And actually, I have it pulled up right here, right next to me. And what you can do is I'm actually scrolling up and down on the main homepage on Acapella. It shows you like examples of like what other people have done and whatnot. But if you want to get started on a new project, all you got to do is press on that button on the center. You press record new, right? And it lets you basically select the layout that you want for your split screen performance. So for example, maybe I want 4 of musicians to be performing in these boxes. So it creates that template for me, and it detects my face right there. You can see, and basically I can start layering each video on top of each other, right? So that's just a really quick intro to how that works. However, I would rather play my friend's really great example of using Acapella. This is really amazing. His name is technically it's Tim J. Rob on Instagram, but Timothy J. Robinson's full name. And he also goes by Huck Tim. I definitely suggest following him. But he did a collaboration with his friend, and this is what it sounds like: trombone, rapping, piano, and bass.
Grammar can be damaging. I heal you up like amethyst cannabis, filling your canvas with bliss. The kingdom's all in the wrist. That was good, but it wasn't up there with this. Fitting with the organ that's under my ribs. Healthy but sound sick like a carpet, not COVID. It's hoking. Ancestors trying from simply trying to do what my folks did. Swarm like a locust, devour.
All right, so that's just a really short example of what's possible. He posted this right on his Instagram. But, you know, really creative what people can do already with just a simple, you know, phone app. So it's not, you know, you might want to explore that option if you're under like a tight budget. There is a free option for acapella. However, the paid version unlocks a lot of the features that you might need in order to get more deep into it. All right. Now, if we're going to go up another level in terms of, you know, editing these split screen videos, there are some, you know, free ones or some programs that have free trials. And what you want to do is you want to start separating the audio editing and the video editing from each other. And the reason is because you can get more into the nitty-gritty details of both the audio and the video without having to worrying about both at the same time. So the easiest way to do this and to get started is to start using the programs that are either built into your computer already, or ones that you could get a free trial or have for free on your computer. So for example, for Mac users, the audio program that comes with your computer is GarageBand. And this is great. It already allows you to do multi-track recording, and you could get plenty out of this. The PC version of GarageBand, or like a free version, would be Reaper. It's just another kind of audio editing program. In terms of video programs, you can use the one that comes with computer. For Macs, iMovie. You know, that's a good place to start. And then for the PC, there's something called DaVinci Resolve, and you can actually get that for free. Okay. And as I mentioned before, these programs are either free or come with free trials, and that's really good for budget productions. You can definitely get a split screen performance out of them. However, you'll find quickly that the capabilities are a little bit limited. So if you're trying to add more text, if you're trying to add more parts, it's going to have a cap on all of that. So we always suggest that it's best to use these programs as like training grounds if you want to get into the upgraded versions of the same programs, which Abel is going to explain. But we're just going to move forward. We're not going to demonstrate these today because we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to hand it over to Abel to talk about the advanced editing software.
Thank you, Peter.
Let me switch to your...
Oh.
There you go.
Thank you, Peter, for all that information. So what I'd like to do is talk more of in a general way about all these different programs that you see on the screen. This is not the full list, but these are like the selective softwares that we like to talk about today. Starting with Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is a video editing program that works basically for Mac users as well as PC users. Is a monthly subscription-based service. It also comes with all these different things. Is what we call the Adobe Cloud. It comes with different programs like illustration and all these different like Photoshop and things like that. But Adobe Premiere Pro is the one that's for editing. The equivalent to that for Mac users is Final Cut Pro. That one's exclusively for Mac users, but it's also a very capable piece of software that allows you to do a lot of things. These are basically industry level programs that you can do, all the things that you need to do in terms of video editing. Now, in terms of, and actually, Adobe Final Cut Pro is like, if you want to call it the advanced or pro version of iMovie that Peter was mentioning, that comes with the Mac, or even like an Apple device. They usually come with it for free. Logic is also a Mac exclusive program, and that one is for audio. This is also a program that's very capable. Especially like, we're showing you the programs that you can use for you to actually do this virtual concert. So Logic Pro is a wonderful program. I actually love working with this program. Is what we can introduce a couple of terms with you, like DAW, the digital workstation. Audio workstation, pardon me. So this program is equivalent to what Pro Tools can do as well. Some of us might have heard of Pro Tools. You can also use it in PC as well as in Mac. A lot of studios, maybe if you recorded in the past, use Pro Tools or Logic. And then, but very similar, both of them. I like to, in the next slide, I'll show you what they look like. But before that, I'll mention about Ableton. It's also an industry use software, and a lot of people use it like in churches, when they need, maybe they're missing an instrument, and Ableton is very capable of doing this live kind of performances, bringing in different elements, different sounds into a live performance. So now to show you what they look like in general, if we can go to the next slide really quick. I'm going to show you my screen as soon as Peter prompts me there. Thank you, Peter. What you're looking at right now is my screen, and I have Adobe Premiere. We at Yardbird Entertainment, we actually use both Premiere and Final Cut Pro to do our editing video. In general terms, I like to just show you that they basically have a very similar structure or skeleton of a software, even if it's a different company or whatnot. Premiere gives you a source window right here where you can see my cursors. I could even zoom in really quick, where you can see this is the source window, where you can actually make the cuts. This is where you get the right here. This window is where you bring and import all the files. Then you can see them here, and then you can start cutting things, little pieces of your footage. And then obviously we cannot miss the timeline. This is your timeline where I'm bringing all the different elements of the video shoot that I did, in case this was a pre-recorded thing, or in case they're sending you things virtually, for your virtual concert. So these are like, you can see some of the wave lines. Those are my audio files, and then on top I got this multicam in this particular project. I got this multicam video file on the top, and then I got some titles on the top, and then this window is the one that's showing me a bit of what is looking like when I'm making these cuts. So this one's particular for this organization, the Jazz Exchange, so just want to introduce you to it. Basically, let me show you what Final Cut Pro would look like as well. And you can see that it's not very different, in terms of the structure of it. On Final Cut Pro, this right here is our timeline. So same concept, we bring in on this window. This is our import window where we have all our files that we're bringing in from our computer into here, and then we make the selections here, and then we bring it into the timeline. Peter's gonna go and extend on this. I'm just giving you an introduction. And then this window, like in Premiere, is where you can see all the different edits that I'm doing. In this particular case, I was doing a split screen virtual concert performance of this big band. And obviously, has some elements. Obviously, these programs are very complete and very deep. So, but also don't be scared. They're programs. There's plenty of stuff out there that can help you get, step by step into knowing how to use it. Now, if I can go to the next screen, I will show you briefly how the digital audio workstations look like, and similar to video editing programs, this softwares look similar. Like if you look at Logic Pro X on the left, you can see that there's an area for all the audio tracks where we basically bring and import all these tracks, and then each track is, or each, each line with each audio file, it allows us to actually shape the sound. And Peter's gonna expand on all those different details. And look, guess what? Pro Tools looks pretty similar too, right? So I'm not saying that they're the same, but I'm saying that they do have a same structure. And basically, what they do is they help you shape and fix and mold the audio that you're working on for your particular virtual concert.
And now we're going to actually show you a split screen performance example. You want to explain that?
Yeah, definitely. The next video that you're gonna see is actually the performance of the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra. It's a project that we had the pleasure to work on for them for the 4th of July performance that they did for the audience. And this was a split screen performance. Obviously, you're gonna get to see all the people that was involved. So hope you enjoy it.
Okay, as much as we love the song,
Yeah.
we have a lot to cover today. However, I hope that was we hope that you got a good, clear idea as to what's possible in terms of a split screen performance there. Just to let you know, that was actually all done on the phone. And we did it exactly the way that we mentioned, having the audio first and then putting the video together. I worked on the audio and Abel worked on the video itself. So it was a lot of work. However, it was worth it.
Oh yeah.
It was fun. So now we're going to talk about, how we actually put something like that together. So there's a couple of phases that we believe we kind of just thought about when we were creating these kind of performances. And, just to let you know up front, there are many ways to present a virtual concert, which, definitely includes the whole live performance aspect, filming it live and then transmitting it via social media, right? Going Facebook Live, YouTube Live. What we're going to be talking more about is more of the pre-recorded content of having these split screen performances. So In order to get that going, we're going to go through these phases, and we're going to go more in depth into each of these phases so that we make sure all the organization is there, and it just makes it super easy for you to start editing and to put out that concert. Phase 1 is planning. Okay, so how are you going to receive all your information? How are you going to coordinate all the musicians together? Phase 2 is the collection process. How are you going to get all your video audio files? How are you going to store them? Phase 3, the editing process, taking all of the videos and audio and editing that all together. And then the phase 4, which is the presentation, which is how you're going to present that particular video to your audience in a virtual space. So let's begin with phase 1. Abel, take it away.
All right, thank you, Peter. All right, so we're gonna start diving into how to actually do this virtual concert, and I'd like to start with phase 1 and just give you an overall step-by-step view of what we're gonna cover on this section. So the method that we're using is a split screen performance. We're going to cover everyone's ability to record. Very important. If you're a band director or if you're a band leader and you're about to jump into one of these projects, you want to make sure that you ask these questions to your students or to your band members. Do you have equipment to record? Do you have an audio interface? Do you have a microphone? What is it that you have? You just have a phone. I've seen I remember being in a position where I was working on a project like this and I wanted certain people to be part of it, but unfortunately they did not have the audio equipment that I needed for that particular program. So for that project. So you want to make sure you ask this question to yourself right away and try to find the answers. You want to go next to selecting the musical material. Super important. Instead of like, hey, let's just do a project and then you don't even know exactly what you're gonna do. So you want to make sure you pick the song that works for the particular ensemble that you're trying to work with. Preparing the material, very important. Giving everybody suggested instructions to record audio and video, so that you get more of a uniform or standardized way of getting these files instead of you dealing with different formats and different resolutions and all that. We're also going to cover selecting audio recording material as well as audio recording methodology. We're going to cover suggested settings for audio and video materials, as well as setting up your deadlines. So now we picked a song. We asked everybody already what they have to record, and we need to prepare the music. We picked the music and all that. So what do? You got to create this backing track, this MIDI track, aka skeleton track, play along, backing track, however your band refers to it, you want to refer to it. This is the track that they're going to use. They're going to be listening to this to actually record their parts along this. This is more than just I just said your metronome at so and so and then just record. This will really help you when you start editing, to make sure that they know what the form is, to make sure that you add the metronome on the track so that they can actually all play in tempo. When you select the tempo, where you actually get the vocal cues, super important. It's going to take a little bit more work from your end to just make sure that you add this vocal cues on the track. So when you set up your DAW or whatever you're using at that point, make sure that into the microphone you just tell the band will be able to hear when they listen to the track. Okay, here we go to the intro, 4 bars, and here goes Robert. It's gonna play the trombone solo for 2 choruses, and they listening to you talking as the track is going. Super helpful. It's really gonna change things for good for you. And also once you're done making all these things on your track, show you in the next slide. I'm going to show you how it looks like. You want to make sure that you make all those annotations to your charts. If you're going to send charts to people that are going to record the parts, you want to make sure that now the track is done, make those annotations and instructions of the form 2 written, It never hurts to actually hear the instructions and then also see them. It will minimize the error on the recording process. So now to show you what it looks like on the on my screen, as soon as we get to my screen, this is Logic. I like using Logic for my productions, and I like to talk about the MIDI track, as I was mentioning in the previous slide. You preparing the music. I already select the music. This particular song is called "Love Letters." It's a wonderful tune that I'm working on with this particular project. And so what you see here is the tracks, but they're not audio tracks. They're actually MIDI tracks. So this is basically information only. This is not actual audio waves files. This is basically what it looks like when after I wrote my arrangement in my notation program, I exported it as a MIDI, and then it gives me this. I can open this. I brought it into my computer, and then since I have Logic, it could, in your case, it could be GarageBand or it could be Reaper, and then you can open it, and it would look similar like this, like little dots, little bars, and whatnot. But you can do so much with this because you can cut it, you can paste it, you can change things around and make sure that it reflects what you want in terms of the form. So maybe your notation program might be a little bit hard to actually, make it to. It has all the repeats that I want and all that. So when you bring it in here, you still have to make a couple adjustments to the track to make sure that it's all precise and ready to go, and it's according to the chart. So let me just show you really quick what it sounds like. Just the MIDI. Um, okay. So that's obviously, these are virtual instruments. These are just MIDI sounds, but it's already helping me so much to able to hear the parts that I need to hear. But now, what does this sound like when I'm already oh, very important also to mention the metronome that I added so that everybody can be on the same tempo. But what would it sound like if uh now I have all the tracks that I actually started getting from the band members. So I actually started with the drum track in this particular case, uh, and the drummer is the first one that recorded. And I'll show you the process later as we go. But I started substituting each of the MIDI tracks in the bottom that I show you with the tracks that I was getting from the band members. And this is how it sounds, just briefly to show you.
Love letters straight from your heart.
So you get an idea what it is, but the whole concept that I wanted to show you is how you work on this track and you start changing all these different things. This is only a method of doing. Now moving on. So now you worked on your track and everything. You're ready to record. You have to make a decision. Once you know the capability of your band members or your students, you got to make the decision if everybody's gonna go with a phone, if that's what everybody has, or if everybody's gonna go with a DAW. Everybody has an audio interface, as Peter was mentioning earlier in the equipment recommendations. So very important decision. Using your phone, obviously, the audio quality is not going to be as good. Video, it will be fine because nowadays smartphones can actually give us pretty good resolution. But the what we recommend is you're using a DAW. Everybody using a microphone. Everybody using an interface. And this equipment is not really that expensive nowadays. It's very accessible. So if you want to take that project to the next level in terms of audio, make sure to use all those things that I mentioned. So now, an ideal situation would be for you to have a setup similar to what you see on the screen. So you'll have a computer. Hopefully, that your computer is clean and it doesn't have only like 1 gigabyte left of memory or something like that. But it's ready to go. You're gonna use headphones. It's very important because you don't want your computer to be playing the track on the speakers and then bleeding into the microphone, right? So you want to have that, and you want to have the audio interface. As Peter was mentioned briefly, the audio interface is going to help you transform those analog wave form lines that your your vocals or your instrument will generate into the microphone, into the audio interface, and then convert it into digital so that we can actually record it. Obviously, good microphone is always recommended. A condenser microphone is always good. You'll see them on studios. If you decide to go with the phone, make sure that the phone is horizontal so that you can get the 1920 by 1080 resolution, and it's pointing at you. Obviously, you probably want to use the best camera of the phone. So you don't want to use the selfie camera. You want to make sure that it's the back camera, the one that you use to take pictures, and it's on a tripod, so it's not this shaky video. If you're a vocal singer and you're able to hold it and sing at the same time, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that's nice and stable. And then lighting, super important. Cannot stress enough how important it is to have good lighting when you're recording, so that the camera can do its best performance. Any camera, it's it's going to be really rough if they work on low lighting. All right, so now for that, let me show you what my audio, I'll stress a little bit more into the audio, what my audio looks like. So what I'm talking into is this condenser microphone. This is a Rode NT1 that I recently got. I really like it. It's connected via XLR cable, and it's going all the way down in the back of my desk and then into my audio interface. Recently just got this wonderful Apollo Twin X, and that one is connected to my computer through this hub that actually, in my case, I added it so that I can connect more things uh, to my computer. I was running out of ports in my computer, and then that's my laptop right there. So it's a basic setup here. It's in my home studio. I also have a condenser microphone back there that I can use sometimes when I'm when I just want to use it to talk, and then my instrument to perform, if I'm doing an online performance or if I'm actually teaching. And back there I got my horns. Yeah, call me for a gig. But so that's basically the brief explanation of my home audio setup, and I'll tell you more about my video. We can go to the next slide. So great. So now you know what's going on, you know what you have, you know what you're working on. Now, how are you gonna record? So you're gonna have everyone just record to the track right away, or are you gonna do maybe something like this, like a little, layering everybody, right? Because if talking about the specific method, the benefits of it is that allows to listen to each other as they're recording. So there's a reference instead of everybody just listening to a track or a metronome. Everybody starts listening to the drums. The bass players is maybe as in this picture diagram that I put for you guys. I had the drums start recording first, and then I go to the bass. So by the time that the bass player is getting the track, now he's hearing the actual tempo that the drummer is playing. And then he goes to the piano player, and then I got the rhythm section together, the foundation of the song. Then I move on to whoever's playing the melody, if it's the horn players or if it's the singers. This will allow you less post production edits. I think if everybody has that opportunity to record, to a reference of the actual performance. Everybody should try to actually probably record more according to that, and you will have less. You will spend less time trying to move things around on your DAW that they line up. It's a little bit longer process on the upfront for you, but it would really save you a lot of time on the long run for sure. So now suggested, these are just suggested settings for us, for you from us, of audio and video materials. Once you start asking students or band members to send you the files, if they're working with the audio interface, the specifications there, .wav file of 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, and 24-bit is probably the most standard and more basic way of recording. That this would allow your audio to have the quality that you need, the richness for you to take the audio into the next level in the mixing process. Now for video, we're lucky now that phones allows us to actually record to 1080p. 1920 by 1080 if you actually use your phone horizontal, as I was mentioning. If you do it vertical, then it's going to give you the opposite resolution. 30 fps is recommended. It's all the basically the frames that are per second that are being captured by your device. YouTube is super important in this whole process. Of how to record yourself, and throughout the whole process of how to create a virtual concert and editing in general. We created a particular video that's showing us how to even go through our video devices, if it's our phone, because as I mentioned, phones will give you this resolution, but they're not going to give it to you automatically. So you want to go through the phone. So in this particular video, we go through the settings on the phone, and we show you, okay, this is how you optimize your device so I can give you this result. So make sure to check out your videos, create a playlist of all the different videos that are helping you throughout this journey, and you'll be set to go. Now, I know it's a lot of information, a lot of stuff. It's cool, it's good. Now I want to move on to phase 2, because I want to get to that point where Peter's showing us exactly what's going on with both softwares for audio and video. But this is super essential too. If you don't do this phase of collection, and you're gonna start, if it's not organized, you're gonna start getting all these files. People are not gonna send you the right files, and they're gonna send it to you in different ways, and it's gonna be a whole mess. So I'm going to show you our way of doing it. That's really has helped us a lot. So select your video recording method. It's going to be covered here. Methods for collecting audio and video materials, as well as the organized process. So jumping on it. So let me just show you now, again with my phone, what my selected ideal or different options of how to record video. So I'm actually using my DSLR camera. So you might even have one of these. You want to make sure that this camera make sure that you clean all the dust off it, get it off the case, maybe if you haven't used it in a while, because this is really going to help you get the best video that you can have. Just want to make sure that if it's too old, you compare between your devices. Maybe it might be too old, might not be your lens might not be the right one. So you always want to test, as Peter was mentioning in the beginning. So that's one option. I also use my phone for a lot of the recordings, since I mentioned my phone can give me that good resolution. I can also use my iPad, if I want a second camera, maybe, a second shot. I can use the webcam, and I'll expand on that in a minute. I can even use an older device like an iPod. This is like a third generation or something. It's lucky that's still alive. And so these are the ideal things that you want to use for a video filming process. And now, so if you have, let me just, hey, thank you, Peter. So if you have like, let me just talk a little bit about this. So if you have a class that you're teaching, maybe if you're a band director, or you know, or if you're having rehearsals with your band through Zoom, you know, I know it's very complicated. I know it's very challenging, and we're all having to actually deal with it. And it's great. I think we as a society and technology, we're progressing so much because of this whole situation. That's looking at the positive side of things. Anyways, I found myself in a situation where I was teaching this summer workshop for Jazz House kids, and I had about 30 kids in Zoom for a big band, virtual big band it was. And I've started figuring out a couple of things, asking different people, and we figured that it's possible that you can actually record the kids on during the class. You know, if you already have all the things that I mentioned before, your track is ready to go, the charts, the kids have the charts, or the band members have the charts. You could probably even do it breaking up rooms, you know, break up rooms where you have somebody rehearsing the band in the breakup room, and then the other one you start pulling kids. And then because the one of the cool things about Zoom is that it allows you to record individual tracks of whoever is on the session. So you just have to make sure you go through the settings and figure that out. But it's very easy to do. It's very possible. And the way to do it, when you pull the kids from the bigger room into your breakup room, is that you know, maybe a couple of the steps would be for you to turn your camera off and share your audio so that they can actually hear the track, or if they have it on their end. And then this way will give you more quality control of the content, basically. So the kid played it wrong, you could just say, you know what, let's just do it again. Give me a take from top to bottom kind of thing. So that's through Zoom. It's pretty easy, and it's a way to to do it that way. But now, if you want more of an uncompressed audio and video using QuickTime, if your students or your bandmates have QuickTime, would they be able to use that if they have Macs? Because it's exclusively for Mac users. It would most likely use your computer's webcam. Usually internal webcams of computers are not the best, but at least it would be uncompressed, because as we all know by now, Zoom usually compresses a lot of audio and the video, and overall it would be a higher definition recording. The equivalent to QuickTime for PC users is Windows Camera app, and you would get basically similar outcomes than QuickTime as well. Now, files organization. Can't wait to see Peter what he's going to tell us on the editing software. But before that, files organization is very important too, because then you will be dealing and spending a lot of time just trying to rename all these files. So you want to tell whoever's sending you the files to name their files. Recommendation is to do it maybe by instrument, and then the part, and then the song name. So as an example is maybe, I said alto sax _1 caravan is the song name, right? So that way, when I'm editing audio and video, then I know what I'm dealing with, instead of like a random number or random name. I don't even know whose track is this, and it'll be a whole mess. So you want to make sure you do that. You can also incorporate something like Google Forms. Google Forms nowadays, we actually like using it, because you can ask a couple questions to the students through a survey, but then you can also include a section where the students can upload their files directly. And excuse me, one of the cool things about this is that it sends all your files to a folder on your Google Drive. So a great thing to add there. And then just briefly, external storage drives. Obviously, as Peters would mention before, I just want to mention again that HDD external hard drives are better for storage, and SSD drives are better for editing. So there you go. Now, when you sharing all these different things, right? And they're ready to send you the files, they name them all correctly and all that. How are they going to send you this stuff? You're going to find out soon enough that if the files are high quality, they're going to be pretty big, and it's going to be really hard to attach to an email. So a workaround that is to have Google Drive. Google Drive automatically gives you 15 gigabytes of free storage with a Gmail account. It's super easy to use. You create the file, you start creating some folders of all the different band members, and then you give them access so that they can just drag and drop their files in there. That's another way to do it. You can do the same thing with Dropbox. If you have Dropbox, it only gives you about 2 gigabytes of free storage before you have to actually get the subscription for higher storage. And then the other method that I like to mention is WeTransfer. WeTransfer is just a web browser based service that is free up to 2 gigabytes. If somebody's just sending, a quick video and an audio, it might be enough. And it's very simple. You just go to WeTransfer.com, and literally it'll prompt you there so that you can just drag and drop or import the file that you need to send, and you put whoever you're going to send it to, their email, and then they get an email with a link. Boom, just click it and they get it to their computer. Pretty easy. Now, to wrap it up, this section, I like to just kind of overview this very important sections of recommendations for an audio sample rate to be 44.1, bit rate 24, as we mentioned. Those are things that if people are using interfaces, they can modify on their DAW to make sure that they get this particular outcome. And overall, just file formats for video and audio. For audio, you want to have .wav files or .aiff. Do not use MP3s. MP3s are compressed audio files that basically are missing a lot of bits of information. So you can hear the general idea, but it's not really high quality rich file. For video, you want to make sure that whatever device you're using, they use the best settings for it. So you want to get at least 1080p. Obviously everybody has different capabilities, but those are the recommended formats and settings.
All right. Thank you. Whoa. Thank you so much, Abel, for talking about the first two phases, which is basically the whole organizational process. And I think, when it comes down to editing the videos and the audio, the preparation that comes beforehand is going to be crucial, and we're about to find out why. So moving on to phase 3, the editing, something that we all came here to hear about, right? All right. So there's two choices when it comes down to editing your video, split screen video. One of the ways was the audio and video simultaneously. So like I showed you on the Acapella app, you can just record right on there and has the video and audio built in. However, it's not the easiest to be able to edit both the video and the audio at the same time. It kind of makes it a little bit more difficult in that sense. However, it is really a faster way to get to the point. Like, here's the split screen video and that's it, right? The other choice that we prefer is the audio and video separately. And this allows us to have more detailed editing on both the audio and the video separately. And this can be a generally longer process. However, if your audio is really happening, and since this is a concert, right? So the audio should have precedence. Then it's just a matter of lining up your videos. And then there, you don't have to worry so much about how it sounds at every given point. You had already worked on the audio so that it's complete. And all you have to do is make the visuals pop out, right? So longer, but maybe not, depending on how you're looking at it. Okay. So in terms of audio editing, what are the things that we're looking to do? First thing is to be able to synchronize all of the different audio files together and make it sound like that we're all playing together. And depending on how well you were prepared in terms of giving out the information and getting like a click track, this can be an easy process. Second thing is we want to make sure we get a good balance and blend throughout the track. So if at a certain point someone's too loud or they move closer to the microphone, this is something that you want to be able to pick up on the audio editing side. You can ask a lot of engineers about how to get that good balance and blend, but we're going to go over some simple concepts that might help out today. And the third thing is to eliminate or edit out any distracting sounds that stick out. This can be done using a number of different devices and methods that we will be going over today. When it comes down to some of the tips that were given to us when we're going through this process, because Abel and I are not audio engineers by any sense. However, we do have a lot of audio engineer friends that were able to help us out through this journey. And, as you keep doing it more, like I mentioned before, you get better at it. Your ears get acclimated to the process. So first tip is to learn more about mixing and mastering in general. There's a ton of YouTube tutorials that aren't necessarily going to give you the best definitions for, depends on the YouTube tutorial itself and who's teaching it. But it will get you to a place where you'll understand certain concepts of mixing. And you could always ask your engineer friends to help you out. And the second tip is that you can always hire someone to mix. There's a lot of freelance audio engineers out there that are particularly working now because they have their own home studio setup. So if it's too overwhelming or it takes up too much time, you can always get someone to help out there. And the third thing is to always get a decent mix using a combination of your ears and some simple plugins that come with your DAW, such as EQ, compression, and reverb, which all these things take learning, but it might be worth it to learn if you're thinking of doing a lot of audio editing on your own. And before I move to the next slide, I just want to, there you go. Okay. So what we're looking at here is finally we're looking at Logic. You might remember this from earlier before. Abel was able to show the Logic program before. So this is what a finished project might look like. I just wanted to give you a sense of that. But however, before I do that, I just want to show you how to start a new project. So in most DAWs, you're going to find that if you go to File and you press New, it's going to prompt me. I'm not going to close this for now. It's going to show up this new window where basically it's like, okay, what's the first track that you want to create? Software instrument, which means the instrument that's built inside the DAW itself. Audio track, meaning the audio that's either coming from your microphone or the interface, MIDI, guitar, bass. It gives you a couple options as well as the inputs and the outputs. So I'm just going to go ahead and press create, right? And if I enlarge this, now this is just a completely empty project. Nothing is in here. Everything is set to standard, standard settings right here. They usually just leave it at 120 tempo, 4/4. Some things that you might have to change depending on the type of song or project you're working on. And what you want to do is you want to go File, and if you have your audio files ready to go, you go to Import, and then you go to Audio File, and then it's going to bring up your Finder, which on Mac is called Finder, but it's going to show all your folders, all your hard drives, right? So in this example, I brought up the project that I'm going to be showing you, but they did an arrangement of 52nd Street, and here's all the different instruments that are involved, all WAV files, perfect, right? So I'm going to select one, I'm going to open it, and there you go. It's right inside this, kind of like this timeline like you saw in the video editing programs, right? If I just go ahead and press play, you'll be able to hear, this is the syncing that he did. He did some clapping at the very beginning, right? I'm going to skip ahead. So this is just a raw audio file from the piano. No one else on there. Okay? So that's what it looks like when you start dragging in files. And the other method of actually doing that is to literally drag in the file. So right here, I have my Finder window that's separate from the program. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert this audio file, and it's going to show up on a new track. So I have the Checkeré down there, and now it's in the file as well. Sometimes there's an issue where like nobody starts exactly at the top, or they press record at different times. So you're not always going to get it synced up right at the beginning. And I'm going to show you how to sync up your audio files right now. Let me just close out this. But you get the general idea as to how to import your files, okay? Now, after you import all your files, it's going to look something, well, it won't look like this, but you want to make it look like this because you want to be able to make sure that you're organized with your particular instruments. You don't want to get confused about what you're working on or nothing like that. So you can actually rename these files. If I double click here, it lets me rename, right? But this is piano, bass, timbal, congas, bongo, cowbell, and chekere, right? And if you can also color code a lot of these tracks so that it's easier on the eyes. You know, if I actually have this organized by like the instrument type, so I can just look at it and be like, okay, red is piano, orange is bass, etc., etc. Now, when I am trying to line up the tracks, which is your next step, what you want to do is first know about how you originally did your backing track, right? Like Abel mentioned before, depending on how you prepare your track, they might have some way to sync up all the audio files. So in this example, I'm going to play, they actually did like a clapping rhythm all at the very beginning, and I was able to line it up from there. Right, so we actually heard a couple different instruments, all different, people, and they were able to, I was able to just look at the waveforms, first of all, look at the waveforms, and be like, oh yeah, that lines up in a row. Okay, that lines up in a row, right? So you could do it like that, and then you can also use a combination of your ears to move things. I'm going to zoom in actually on the program itself. You can actually use your ears to also line up the tracks as well. So a combination of visuals and ear and, having a good sense of, okay, they're really playing together. That's how you start lining up all your different audio tracks. Okay, so after you are done lining up those audio tracks, which can take a while, what you want to do is you want to start doing this thing called gain staging. And what gain staging means is basically you want all the files to be at a similar, somewhat lower volume. So if you look at the waveforms here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. If you look at waveforms here, they're all different volumes. If it's like really wide like this, that means it's like really loud, right? And you look at something like this, it's really soft. So they all recorded in different ways, and that's going to happen naturally. So when you do gain staging, I'm going to bring up like one of the gain knobs right here. That's basically your volume. And what I did is I went through each of the instruments, starting usually with your percussion instruments. So let's say cowbell or whatnot. And you start bringing down or up the volume so that it's at a similar green level. Green level meaning I'm looking down here on the mixer. Actually, let me just turn on something really quick so you see exactly what I'm typing. All right, you can see that, right? Okay, great. So on the bottom left, you're going to see the keystroke that I'm typing, basically what key I'm typing on the keyboard, so you know what the shortcuts are. So if I want to bring up the mixer, which is this thing on the bottom here, I could just press X, right? That hides it if I have it up already. And I press X again, and it allows me to view the mixer really fast. Okay, so now I'm gonna look at this mixer. I'm going to play a little bit of the track, and we see that generally, well, not the beginning part, but generally, they're all going to be in green or yellow level. So we don't want anything peaking. We don't want anything to really be sticking out too much in the very beginning. So that's going to give you a lot of room to work with gain staging. Very first thing. Second thing is starting to work on your EQ. This is what a graphic EQ might look like on your DAW. And basically what an EQ does is it's short for equalizer. It lets you modify certain frequencies in the audio. So if something is sticking out in the lower frequencies, the lower part pitches of the instrument, or something is sticking out in the higher parts of the instruments, you can actually bring it down or up using this equalizer, as you can see here. And so every instrument has its own tendencies. You just want to basically make sure that it's all level. Nothing is sticking out too much, and you're bringing up the parts that really need to be brought out. And that's what equalizer accomplishes. We're not going to go too deep into these aspects because we still got to talk about the video editing, right? And then the second thing I like to do after gain staging and doing the equalizer is I like to apply a little bit of this thing called compression. Now, compression stands for compressing a sound's dynamic range. So what that means is your louder parts of the track are going to become softer, and your softer parts of your track is going to become louder. So as you apply more compression, this dynamic range becomes smaller. And therefore, actually, most of the time, people think it gets louder. But what really is happening is that you're bringing out the presence of that particular instrument. So if you look at some of these waveforms, especially timbal, you'll see that there's a lot of, like whenever he hits a cymbal, right, that's going to be different than the other part of the timbal, right? So you want to make sure that your compression is just working slightly enough so that it's all level across. So that's a basic intro to compression. It gets really complicated, but again, YouTube tutorials, they're your friends. Okay, now moving on to panning. So panning is basically like if I want to hear something more in the left or right channel. If you have trouble hearing all the individual instruments because everything's just so centered in the mix, then you can start messing around with the panning so that you get more of a spread inside the inside the mix. I can't demonstrate it for you today because most of this stuff that's going out right now is in mono, which means that it only has one channel. So even if I showed you what it sounded like, it would just sound like it was all in both channels. But I definitely recommend messing around with the panning just to see what it does and then apply as needed. Use your ears once again. And then the last thing I like to do after panning is the reverb. So I'm going to show you the reverb that I work with. This is called Valhalla Room. It's a external plugin that I can download and use within Logic. And I'm going to demonstrate what reverb does, but basically it's like this echo or delay kind of environment. So let me turn it off for now. You'll hear what it sounds like. And I'm going to turn it up. So you hear a little bit more of this delay, right? Turn it back down. Okay, so that's the basic premise of reverb. There's a lot more to it, a lot more functions you can have with it, but sometimes it helps if your musicians are all in different rooms or your students are all in different rooms and record all differently. You're going to notice that some have more room sounds, some have more echoes and whatnot. So you're basically just trying to get it to the point where they're matching in its environment, in this recording environment. So you can manipulate that using a little bit of reverb. I don't like to apply too much because then it just sounds like you're in a cave. And, that works in certain situations, but usually not in the more acoustic situations. So just to give you an example of what it sounds like unmixed. This is really soft. So this is an unmixed track that was sent to us. Just like all the different instruments in there. Let me get to the part where the bass is in. Okay, so that's unmixed. And if I play that same part, now you can actually hear all the instruments, and certain instruments stick out more than others because that's the effect that you wanted. Okay, so hopefully you hear a difference there. But even if you don't, sometimes some things don't need too much mixing. If it sounds good already as a raw, when you bring everything in, then that's good enough. Okay, so that's just an example of some audio mixing. Again, I am not an engineer. A lot of this stuff is kind of learned over time with the combination of asking others and a bunch of YouTube tutorials. However, you get better as you go along. Okay, so now for audio mixing review, just to go really quick, sync your audio clips together. First step, organize and label your tracks. Adjust the gain or the volume on each track. Adjust panning if needed. Utilize the plugins as needed, as we explained, EQ, compression, reverb. And then you want to export your project. Let me just go back really quick because I forgot to mention that. But if you are on Logic, you go to File, and you could do Export, but really it's Bounce and then Project or Section. It's going to prompt you to save it as the following: PCM, MP3, M4A. What you want is PCM. That's going to give you a WAV file with the settings that we mentioned. 32-bit is fine. That's higher quality, but most people can only record 24, and you can only edit in 24 anyway. And then you press OK. And that's what it's going to do. It's going to process your track, and then it's going to save it to your pre-designated area. So that's a basic review of audio mixing. If you have questions about that, be sure to email us. If you're here on Zoom, just go to that Menti link that we provided, and you can ask your questions there. All right, now, oh my goodness, moving on to video editing. If you need a break, that's fine, because like I said, we're going to leave this video up for a week on our social media platform. So be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff, so that you can continuously take notes from this webinar. Okay, so video editing. It's going to be very similar to what we're talking about in terms of video editing. Our main goals is to make it look like everyone is playing together, hopefully. Feature everyone as equally as possible. In this case, let's say that you have a split screen performance and you have a bunch of different scenes with a different amount of people on each scene. It's usually good to try to get everyone equal love on their videos, right? And the third thing is we want to make it as visually appealing as possible. There's no use editing a video if it's just going to be a boring video, right? So we're going to talk about some ways to kind of like make it look a little different, or add a little bit of spice to the video, right? Tips that we have for video editing that's really helped us is, number one, try to visualize your music more. So if you were to close your eyes and listen to the track, what environment are you imagining? And hopefully it's not a chaotic classroom, but hopefully something nicer than that. And how do you, right? Although usually that's what I'm imagining. But, try to match the visualization of what you're hearing, right? If you only hear trumpet, bass, drums, in one particular part, maybe it makes more sense to visualize it that way as well. That split screen would only have 3 boxes, right? Stuff like that really makes a huge difference. Number 2, learn the shortcuts. Like I mentioned before, if you have your shortcuts ready, you just make the process so much faster. And I'll show you a couple of shortcuts on Final Cut specifically that will help out. Number 3, set aside time to edit and review all of your materials. I'm just going to let you know it takes a long time to do video editing. The first project I did, it was like a 5-minute video, but it took me like 3 days. Now I can get it down to, like, if it's a 5-minute video and I want it to look really nice and have all these effects, it usually takes me around 8 hours to complete something that I feel comfortable releasing, right? So yeah, don't leave it till last minute. Definitely not. Number 4, find plugins to make your life easier. Plugins are basically outside software that you can implement inside the video editing software. And these are usually sold by third-party companies. So there's plenty of good plugins out there that's just going to make your life that much easier, okay? Just give me a second to get the video editing software up. And there we go. Okay. So moving on to video editing workflow demonstration. What we have here is Final Cut, and you might remember this because Abel was showing that earlier with his own project. And what I'm actually showing here is this musician, Linda Briseño, and she had an arrangement of a Charlie Parker tune called Donna Lee. We edited this for the National Jazz Museum Harlem, where they had a virtual concert, and we'll show you some of the clips of that later. But I'm just going to maybe play a little bit of it. Yeah, I'll play a little bit of it starting from maybe here. And just to give you an idea as to what it might look like, finished product. Okay, cool. So that just gives you an idea as to what's going on. And oh, by the way, I hope you were watching up here as well. So this is the actual what you're going to actually see when you export the actual video file. So this is where, you know, you get to view everything, what you're editing. All right. So just to start from the beginning, like if you're trying to start a new project, usually you go to, well, it's a little complicated in Final Cut, but usually I just like to start depending if it's a larger project, I like start a new library and then start a new project and then start an event inside the project. A little bit, you know, confusing at first, but you'll get used to it. So I'm just going to show, wait, hold on. I'm going to show an example of what it might look like when you're first starting out dropping the files in and importing all your video files. Okay, so let me just disable this for now so we know generally what it looks like. So none of these clips would necessarily be here. You would have to import all your video clips. So I'm going to show you how to import your video clips. Hold on one second. You go to File, you go Import, and you go to Media. This is one way, by the way. I'll show you numerous ways. And from here, you can select the video file that you want to import. So let's say I want to import the roads for this particular project. And they'll give you a bunch of different options as to how you want to import. You know, and you would have to make a decision and look up what each of these things really mean. But for now, we're just going to import, right? And what that does, it actually imports it on the top up here. So these are it basically imports clips that you can use within your project file. In order to actually use this clip, you would have to drag it into the main timeline, which is over here. Okay, so I dragged it in and voila, the video is right there with the original video sound. So as you can tell, they had a click track with the original that he was able to implement in this video. Okay, so that's how you would import tracks. I'm just going to get rid of that because I already have that. Okay, first step you want to do when you're you know, eventually importing your files. Oh, forgot to mention if you want to also import your files, you could just drag and drop from, okay, let me get this right, from your files. I have a bunch of like things open right now. All right, so you could just go to your Finder window here. I have a video file for this particular project, and oh, wrong one. I'm gonna go to Linda's file. All right, so I have the video files in here, and I want to import the roads. All I gotta do is drag and drop, and now it's inside my project, right? But since I already have it, I'm going to get rid of it. All right, now that everything's in your video project file and everything's on the timeline, you also want to make sure that your audio file is imported as well. So here is my final mixed audio file, as you can see there. And it's just going along on the timeline here. So that's just the audio file. And then what I want to do is I want to match each of these video files to the audio file, right? In order to get everything synchronized, because it doesn't automatically come like that most of the time. So now I'm going to activate these clips as if, you know, I was actually going to edit these. All right. So right now I have all the audio kind of down, But if I were to bring it up to normal level, 0 dB, which means decibels, I'm just dragging it up here. You can actually see these are the original audio from the video. And it's a little hard to tell in terms of visually what's happening in terms of sound. Like, just because the sound starts here doesn't mean that it starts exactly there with the audio file, right? So I'll give you an example. I'm going to disable these clips. So on the drum file, all you hear, I'm going to bring this up, is, oh, I need to disable the dancers clips too. All you hear is background noise and like talking and stuff like that, right? However, eventually he starts playing and it becomes drastically louder. So I can just look at that one particular part. I'm going to zoom in. Right. So you can just look at that one particular spot and be like, oh yeah, he actually comes in here, right? And if I disable that clip, and disabling clips is V, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, and I enable this clip, let's see when the drums come in. Okay, so the drums come in right about here, which means that the audio should match when the drums come in. Makes sense, right? So that's one way of being able to sync up your videos. Again, sometimes they have a better process as to how they're syncing up their videos too. Sometimes you want to ask them to clap in time right at the top of the song. In this case, they did not necessarily follow our process. So there was no syncing at the very beginning, which means we had to manually sync all the video and audio files ourselves. But again, not a problem if you have your methods of doing so, like the one I just mentioned, right? So I just want to give you a basic premise as to when you're starting a project, what it might look like, how you're dropping in your files, and how you're lining up your actual video files. Okay. I know it's definitely getting pretty late. We're already at the 1 hour 30 mark, but let's just go through this, right? So, as you can see here, this is the finished product. Once again, I brought it back up. And this is what it might look like once you're done editing all your different files, cutting in the right places and whatnot. Actually, let me go back to the original file here. So just to show you what's happening here, I actually dropped like an empty template right on the bottom of the timeline. So right now you can see the screen is black. And the reason I like to do it this way is because when you start cutting up clips, like if you want to start being like, okay, I just want a split screen video now, so I'm just going to, cut all of these files now. What's going to happen is if you apply an effect or you try to, edit one part of the file. So let's say I want to make this black and white, right? Black and white. It doesn't affect the rest of the clip. So every single time you cut, you have to be conscious that you won't be able to necessarily easily carry over effects. There is an easy way of doing it in terms of shortcutting, but if you have everything planned beforehand, all your cuts, all your transitions according to the music, it's just going to make your life that much easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. And so, for example, where are we going to make our cuts? Okay, so if we listen to the music, here we hear it's only rows, right? Now, okay, so now the trumpet enters there. So usually you don't want to just show the trumpet player waiting around or like getting ready, right? Sometimes that effect is cool, but like, for example, here, you don't want to just show like, oh, I'm waiting around. Maybe in the beginning that's fine, but later that might not be what you want. So what I do is I make a cut on this blank canvas on the bottom so that I know where to cut in the future. So once I'm done figuring out where all the cuts are, where people start entering, for example, here, now I know the drums enter, right? And the bass. So I'm just going to give you an example of like why we would want to do this, right? So I'm going to activate the Rhodes because that's what's playing in the very beginning. And I'm going to activate the trumpet. That's what comes in next. So here we go. This is what it looks like if I just had those two. Right? So that kind of makes sense, right? Where if the trumpet comes in, you want to be able to visualize the trumpet. Simple things like that goes a long way, and it's going to help you with your split screen process. All right. Now moving back to the finished product here. Just to give you an idea, this is an example, a good example of like a common split screen look. You have these boxes and everyone's in it. So how do you actually do that? One way to do it is to manually resize your boxes using the controls on the right here. So as you can see, there's this thing called transform, and this allows you to move the boxes and to reshape, really resize, rotate, etc., etc. So that's what allows you to move files, like video files, around on the screen. So if I were to do that on this particular track, it's a little slow. So there we go. Like that's the dancer video, right? So I can move it left or right. I can move it up or down. I can resize it accordingly. All right. But instead of doing that, we actually have a plugin that we like to use, which we will, if you sign up on our website, we'll be able to provide that resource. But this actually automatically creates these boxes for us, and with the certain size. So this plugin just makes our life that much easier, because now I don't have to go and manually resize. I don't have to manually, move things around. It's just going to give me the layout right there and then. The same way that you saw it on Acapella earlier on the phone app, okay? All right, so that's what that frame looks like with this particular split screen setup. So that's how you get that split screen look. You can mess around with this idea in different ways. But I just want to show you like some creative ways to make it like visually pop more. So one way is to apply some transparency between different clips. So for example, here I have the dancers on top in terms of the layer, and then I have the roads almost as like a background. So it's kind of like an artistic look on the video. Another way of doing this is to do a little bit of something called keyframing, which allows you to do a little bit of, like, I would say, video animation. So I have it zooming in on the dancers there, right, from the whole box. Another way to do it is to apply transitions. So if we look here at this box here, this is a great box, and you're going to see this on Final Cut a lot, but basically this is a transition box, and you could apply this very easily. All you have to do is do Command T, and that's going to let you create a transition on that particular clip. So the reason you want to add these transitions is because maybe you don't necessarily want that particular clip to come in really hard. So this is a fade in transition. So you see there, the drummer slowly came in, and I'm just going to do that slow-mo, okay? So there's other kinds of transitions. Let me show you another. I know I applied one earlier. There you go. All right, let me show you another kind of transition here. Okay, so there's another type of transition. So I actually had that box delayed and coming in hard left. Yeah, so there's all kinds of transitions that are built into your video editor already. You can also purchase more additional transitions from plugins that you find online. And finally, you get to add text, lower thirds and credits and all that kind of stuff. I have mine slowly coming to the center there to give a little bit of effect, right? All right, so that's just an example of like what's possible. And a little bit intro to video editing. Whew. All right. Video editing review. First step, sync your video clips. Second step, organize and label your videos. Apply color matching if possible. If the videos are all like different lighting and whatnot. Plan your cuts and transitions ahead of time. Imagine each scene and create the split screen effects. And finally, touch up with some interesting keyframing and transitions. And once again, I forgot to show you how to export the video. Okay, so if you want to export the video, you go to File, and then you go to Share, specifically on Final Cut, and you do Master File. And what it's going to allow you to do is you have the information there, but if you want to go deeper into settings, you can just click on Settings, Video and Audio. This is the type of encoding that the video does, H.246, very common. 1920 by 1080, good 1080p like we talked before. It converts the audio specifically to AAC, your color space, whatnot. And then what you do is you just click Next, right? And then it's going to prompt you to save it in a particular file. You just press Save. It's going to take a second to export, and then you're good. You can use that video file as a .mov. You can send it to whoever you need to send it to, or you could present it on your virtual concert. So that's the video editing review. And finally, we have phase 4 presentation. Finally, we have finished our split screen video. Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to let you know now, this process can take a very long time. And that's okay. Like the first time is going to be kind of a rough trial by fire kind of thing. But again, you get better at it. You learn all the shortcuts, and you're able to dish it out faster, right? So what are some different ways of presenting your split screen performance? I listed a few here. Zoom screen share is one way, right? Where you have the video ready on QuickTime or whatnot, whatever video player you have. You share your screen and you present the video. That's one way, not particularly the best. The other way is having unlisted private YouTube videos. You can upload the YouTube video to your channel, and then you can set it to unlisted, so only people with a link can see it. So that might be an interesting way to showcase the video. Google Drive link, if you upload it to Google Drive and then you create a link for it, you can send that to everyone, and they can also view it inside of the Google Drive player. Another way is Facebook Live. So everyone knows Facebook Live, but you often need a live stream broadcasting program in order to do that, which we're using OBS at the moment, and that's on the lower right-hand corner. Some people have asked us about how to use OBS, and I believe we do offer some lessons on that as well if you need it. And then finally, probably the best way to do it, to be honest, is uploading the raw video file to social media and premiere it, meaning that you set a date for the video to play, and then it releases on that day and everyone can see it. And the reason that's kind of preferable is just because it maintains the quality that you export your video at and your audio file. So, you want to maintain as high quality as possible, which brings me to the tips is make these presentations as accessible to your audience as possible. Don't try to send them to too many links. It's just really off-putting and pretty confusing for a lot of people. So if you're going to figure out a way to present a virtual concert, just try to get it down to like 2 links or even 1 link. Like, here's a link to watch on this day at this time. Bam, there it is, right? Second tip, share as high quality as possible. Like I mentioned before, a lot of these platforms kind of deteriorate the quality of which you're putting out these videos at. So if it's 1080p, for example, if we're live streaming right now on Facebook, the maximum resolution you could get right now live streaming is 720p. So you already made the resolution smaller and therefore lost some of the quality. Sometimes that's unavoidable, but that's okay. And the third tip is think of this as a TV production. You're going to need a run a show. You're going to figure out, okay, are there other elements to this virtual concert besides just people performing? Do I want to give an intro? Do I need a hold screen for people to let people in to Zoom or whatnot, right? All these things, is very important to think about when you're presenting information. And as an example, we're going to show a virtual concert example. So we actually did a number of these for the National Jazz Museum Harlem. They have their Crib Collective concert, where basically they have a number of musicians pre-record these split screen videos. We put them together, and they go between live elements of like a Zoom conference, which I'm going to show you. It was actually Christian McBride, Tracy Suffern, the president of National Jazz Museum Harlem, and John Baptiste, which, was fun to really put that together. And, they have their logo down on the bottom right-hand corner. That's what they wanted. And so they went between this Zoom conference thing, I'm just speeding through, going into the actual performance, which is the split screen video. So I'm just going to give a little example of what that might look like.
It was at the museum, and we played, and with no rehearsal, he just, anyway, you'll hear. You'll understand. Stay tuned and find out what they have in mind for the fellowship.
So I just want to give you a little example as to how you can go between like a live element and this pre-recorded split screen thing that we edited. And, we put the lower third there with the information on the song and the artist and who performed. It just makes it like look in a way, the same way that you run an event, right? In the very beginning, we had this hold screen. There was some background music. I'll just play a little bit of it. So we just said the program began at 7 p.m. and we would start the stream at that point, going into the intro by Christian McBride. Okay. So, this is just like an example of how you can use several assets within a virtual concert in order to make it more interesting. And that brings us to, finally, let's go back to Abel as well.
Wow, thank you, Peter. That was a lot of information. Ooh. And I hope and we hope that this information comes in handy for all of you guys that are trying to figure out a way of how to actually do this. The main purpose of us was to just come in and show you the way that we do it. And obviously we can actually guide you through it. If you want to do it yourself, just make sure to email us, make sure to subscribe to our email listing on our website. Also, so that you can actually get the resources, materials that we're going to be sending out early next week. We want to thank you all so much for coming. But before that, just want to make sure that you understand that this thing that you're putting together, once you dive into it, is this project that's going to offer music quality, that you're not going to forget about that's a very important element of the whole project. You're going to select the right musicians, or if it's your students, you're going to rehearse this music and get it to where it is ready to go. You want it to be interactive, and when you present it, and you want it to be also very exciting in terms of the visuals and all that. So make sure to don't forget about those elements and include them on your project.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to bring out the music quality, interactive elements, and exciting visuals throughout this virtual concert. And a lot of these things come built in with the platforms that you use. So for example, if you decide to live stream it on Facebook, there's already a chat box that's implemented. Have someone there engage with the people that are watching, right? These small things like this goes a long way and allows you to draw in more people without, besides just like, okay, here's the split screen performance and that's right. It, right? So it's just some different ideas that we've encountered that a lot of organizations, musicians are looking for, and you can find a way to provide that, is what we're saying.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
So now we're finally to the Q&A. Okay. I know hopefully everyone's still there, hasn't fallen asleep. Yeah. And so what I'm going to do is, so Abel already put in This is only for people on Zoom. Sorry, people watching on Facebook and YouTube. However, you are going to be able to see the questions pop up. So again, the link is inside the Zoom chat. And if everyone could go there and type in their questions, it's going to show up. I'm going to move to the screen in which it does that. Okay. Now, we already have 2 questions up here, but again, these are anonymous. So if you went to that website here, people in chat in the Zoom chat, if you click on that, it'll open it up in the browser. It's going to prompt you to ask us anything, and your question will pop up here. But don't worry, it's anonymous. So we'll just go through these, and if you have more questions, be sure to just pop them in there, and it'll show up. Okay. Now, the first question. Go ahead, Abel.
When you have students recording themselves using their phones with landscapes horizontal, but they all have different phone resolutions, are there any suggestions you have? As I was mentioning at the beginning, I think this is something that I would recommend to take care all the way from the first steps of your project to make sure that students can get the best. The general idea here is that they're going to get the best quality out of whatever device they have. And they need to understand, and you need to understand that that's not going to be automatically. So as I was mentioning, this particular project we were working on, we actually created this video where we guide them through specifically how to change the settings or optimize the settings on an iPhone. We did not extend to do it on a Android phone, but I'm sure they're very similar steps to do that. Basically, you go to your settings or your phone and make sure that is going to be optimized for recording and give you the best video outcome. That's pretty much what I think we can do in terms of that, when you're literally just limited to just having students record themselves. And then also the basic, very simple one, have them record with a good camera on their phone. Don't have them record with the selfie camera if they can avoid that. That way you're going to get a better quality of your video resolution.
Yeah, and we suggest that if they're, let's say that everyone can't do 1080p, go for the lowest common denominator, I would say. If it's 720, then just edit in 720, right? Because not everyone has 1080p functionality. However, you can still make it look good if everyone has different resolutions. There are solutions to that. So like Abel mentioned, it's definitely, it's going to depend, but yeah, those are some options for that. Answered. All right. What does a skeleton track sound like? Is it the band director basically talking through the piece with a metronome? Right. So Abel mentioned this, or he talked about this earlier in the talk about how to create that skeleton track, which is other known as that backing track, right? It has different names to it, but basically you can have that element where the band director is talking through the piece. You could do a little bit of a voiceover above the original like MIDI file or whatever you have going on. I'm trying to think if I had something like that on my computer. I probably offloaded it to my hard drive already.
Yeah. I mean, the skeleton track or backing track, I remember doing a couple of projects where, literally I did not have the music, and it was very hard for me to write everything into a notation program. And all I did is I got the metronome, the tempo. I selected the tempo, and then I recorded my voice track on top. So it is possible to do a very basic. Obviously we recommend the more specific that you are and the more elements that you can provide for guidance when your students or your band members are recording, the better the outcome you're going to get. Especially if you're having students and all they hear is a metronome. For some of them, obviously we understand that recording for a lot of us is not something that we're used to. We're learning and we're getting better at it, but definitely it's possible, and it would sound pretty bare bones basically, but in other words, what I'm saying is that I've done it and it has worked basically.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely done a number of instances where you send it, you create a click track for someone, and then you send it over to the person that needs to do the voiceover, like come in here, and he gives a little bit of a count off, right, on each of the sections, and that works as well. Answered. All right, go ahead. Abel, you want to read that one?
During today's presentation, did you have a third person doing the behind the scenes stuff, changing slides, switching screens, views, etc.?
I think he was very in front of the scene.
Yeah, he was actually on the forefront. Actually, Peter was telling Peter what was going on. You're in.
Yes, so it's a combination of things, but basically we set this up beforehand. We've been doing a number of webinars for different organizations, and I've been finding that I've been I'm already familiar with the streaming program called OBS, like I mentioned before. And so I'm just utilizing a number of different resources plus OBS in order to switch all the screens. So I'm actually doing it in real time, which is why sometimes you might see a little delay, or I'm like, yeah, because I have the 2 monitors set up. You should see how crazy it looks right now. Just everything up, open at once. But yeah, if you're pretty good with like getting things done quickly, you could do it all yourself, but it is fairly difficult. I usually like to have a little bit more help with that aspect.
Yeah.
But Abel and I have been doing it separately as well.
Yeah, definitely. We tend to Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut. Oh wow, there's the question.
Oh man. So I'll go first because I know, just generally speaking, people who use Final Cut complain that there are still processing issues, even if you have a fast computer and whatnot. It's just not rendering files fast enough and might be a little bit more laggy. So just as a user interface, it is more friendly to look at. It's almost like the Sibelius of, the video editing world. But there are certain things that just are not as professional, or they try to make it more user friendly. It's basically what Final Cut is about, but some things fail when it's more user friendly, right? Maybe Abel, you could talk more on Adobe Premiere Pro.
Yeah, Adobe I think is probably the program that I've used the most in the last 2-3 years, but now with this whole situation, we've been focusing a little bit more on Final Cut Pro. I think there's a lot of things that you could do in Adobe Premiere that are customizable, like a little bit more like building things from the ground. It's also easy to use, I think. The only difference is, one of the major things is that if you want to get into that whole of subscription kind of thing with Adobe Premiere, or if you have a Mac or you don't have a Mac, then you kind of want to gravitate with one of those programs. These are not the only programs out there, obviously. But both of them are very capable programs. I would say a lot of people are using Adobe Premiere nowadays.
Yeah.
And as one of our members here in Zoom was mentioning, or in Facebook, I forget. There is a more of a light version of Adobe Premiere. It's called Premiere Elements, I believe. Mm-hmm. So you can. It's almost like the iMovie of Final Cut or Mac. Right.
So we did get a question actually from Phil. Thank you for joining us, Phil. Which brand of video camera? I'm not too sure if okay, it's actually up here. There you go. Hey, which video brand of camera is best? Thank you for using Menti. So yeah, that's also a hard one.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a rabbit hole for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the reason is because there's so many different aspects of a camera that you want to look into. So let's just narrow it down. For example, let's say you just want a simple plug and play video camera, right? That you could just plug in your computer and use it as a webcam. Well, external webcams are probably the best solution for that because it doesn't require any additional learning. You just got to plug it in and it works fine. It gets you 1080p, 30 FPS, which is very standard. And that might be good enough for what you're doing. But as you get into more high quality definition things, it might run into some issues. So I'm actually going go back to this slide.
Hey.
Hold on. So Abel currently is using a DSLR, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So as I was showing you guys earlier in the presentation of my home studio, this is a DSLR camera. Just a photo is usually best known as a photo camera, and but I bought it specifically for video. It has limitations compared to a camcorder, a recorder, but it just gets you a really good picture. And I'm using this through a video card
Video
and
capture
connected,
card. Yep.
video capture card connected to my hub through a USB port. So yeah, I mean, I think this whole situation of which camera, it depends on, first of all, your budget. What are you going to use this camera for? Is this going to be for maybe you're trying to do a business with this camera, or is this more for your own personal projects? One thing that I do recommend to think about and make sure that you understand what you're gonna do if your projects are gonna be in low light compared to projects that are more well lit and everything. There's cameras that work better in low light. In general, cameras work way better in well lit rooms and whatnot. But if you're gonna be filming some gigs, where it's a little bit dark, you might want to find a camera that's more apt for that particular
for
situation.
sure. And I actually myself I use a GoPro. So the one I'm using right now is a GoPro that I connect via the video capture card that we mentioned before. It's the same one that Abel's actually using. So a lot of video devices that might be lying around can be utilized. And again, it's just about finding the right light, getting the right situation. I have LED lights in the back. I know Infinity was asking. So those are LED lights. I can change the color and whatnot. And that's how I get the purple room, purple rain.
Purple rain.
Awesome. So let's see if there's any more. I believe that's, one more question. Okay, hold on. Peter. Oh, yeah. Okay, I just answered this. Yes, it's LED lights. You could purchase them fairly cheap. They're power sourced, and you can change the color with an app on your phone. Fun, but don't get a cheap one like me. But it still works. All right, no more questions.
No more questions. Yeah.
Yay.
And if you do and you don't want to ask it right now, that's fine. Just send us an email.
Yeah.
yardbirdentertainment@gmail.com. We really want to help you go through this process, or in case you want more help in depth into maybe editing your project, let us know. The sooner the better, so we can put on a calendar, start helping you, because I know we're already thinking on Christmas virtual concerts and this and that. So make sure that you do it with time, so that everything could be done properly. You could get this good quality virtual concert. In general, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a wonderful time doing this webinar for you guys. I know we touched briefly on a bunch of different topics, but if you want to learn more in depth on each of the topics, we make sure to subscribe to our email list on our website. We will send some really nice documents where we're recommending the cameras, we're recommending computers, we're recommending microphones, audio interfaces, and all that. So all you have to do is you go to our website and actually Peter's put in a I think we actually have it in the chat.
Link. Yeah,
it's a link for that for you to just type in your email. Make sure that we can send you this material.
Yeah, and we'll also send a follow-up survey if you want to learn more about a certain topic. We can definitely explore that area if possible. Another thing to mention is that we do offer these services as well. So if you know anyone that needs help, that needs this kind of stuff, the audio video live stream, split screen performances, we would love to just discuss with you what those possibilities are. So we want to thank everyone definitely for sticking with us for 2 hours, over a little bit over 2
Wow,
hours, a
I
little
know.
longer than we thought. But we just want to make sure that you're in a good position to understand the work that it takes to get there.
Oh yeah.
And just a basic outline of like how we go through this process. So yeah, we really hope that this is a helpful thing for everyone.
Yep.
We wish everyone a really safe time. This is definitely not the best time for most people. And so we just want to acknowledge that we know it's really difficult right now. And we
Right.
just hope that this just creates a little bit more positivity during this
Right.
time.
Exactly. We'll make the best out of this, and we're gonna come out of it even stronger. So let's stay positive, stay safe, and don't hesitate to reach out to us.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Take care.
Take
Have
care.
a good night.
I want 2.